You're watching Maryland Politics here on TV Free Baltimore.
Hello everybody, my name is Derek Sterling and welcome to another episode of Maryland Politics. This evening I have running for U.S. Senate, Mr. Arvin, am I saying it right? Arvin Vohra?
Yep. Thanks for having me on.
Welcome to the TV Free Studios. And, running as a Libertarian, first question I'd like to ask you is how, why, and what are your expectations and how do you feel your chances are of winning?
It's a lot of questions. So let me say this. What is it that libertarians are about? Libertarians, to understand libertarianism, you have to think about our goals. And our goals right now, my goal as a candidate, is to work towards ending the income tax and ending the welfare state. I mean completely ending the income tax and completely ending the welfare state. I want to repeal the 10F welfare. I want to repeal Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and cut taxes accordingly. We believe that if you earn money, that it is your money to do with whatever you want. And if you want to donate it, cool. And if you want to keep it, that's also fine. So now, what are the chances of that message getting out there? Well, the thing is that message is electrifying people more than I've ever seen it electrify people before. I've been talking about ending the income tax, ending government schools, ending the welfare state for a long time. But only recently have I seen it catching fire in the way that it is. And so the reason that I'm running is I want those ideas to catch on fire even more here in Maryland, and so that they can spread around the country as well. I want us to be demanding a different type of government, a smaller government, or a non-existent government if it gets to that. I want our people to be saying enough of this is enough, and we want to shut it down. We want to end all these damaging programs, and we want to be free the way that we're supposed to be.
Awesome. I mean, it just sounds, your drive automatically to me, it sounds, invigorating. It sounds like you automatically know what's going wrong or what, your perception of what's wrong right now and what you plan to do to fix things or help fix things because it is a long process. Well, can you tell our audience right now, who is Arvin Vohra? Who are you yourself? I mean, explain to our people who you are, outside of the politics.
Sure. I'm a small business owner. I started my own business when I was 22. It's an education business. It's a free market education business. It's not involved with the government in any way. On principle, we don't take any government money. We don't apply for any government grants. We don't accept any government grants. We believe that there is something very sacred in any kind of exchange between people that's a voluntary exchange. And I've seen all the regulations and all the nonsense that keeps people from experiencing the wonder of entrepreneurship. And I've seen all the roadblocks that prevent people from getting the kind of education you get in the free market. Sometimes it's actually free education in the free market.
Sure.
Things like Khan Academy, or sometimes it's not free. But the key thing that I've seen in my life is that government damages people. It prevents opportunities for business. It harms education through government schools, through Common Core, both of which I want to see go. I want to see Common Core go because I think it's stupid. I want to see government schools also go because I think there is no justification of any kind in the modern era when you have things like Khan Academy that government should be paying for schools with our money. That is wrong. I do not believe for 1 second that the fact that you have a kid entitles you to the fruits of somebody else's labor. Right. And so I want to see that change. Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, that's actually an awesome point. That out of all the politicians or people just running for a political seat, I haven't heard anybody say that yet. And everybody's got a lot of good intentions based on their platform or what they intend to do or would like to do to help towards change. But I hadn't heard that one, so that's really awesome. And you're right. I mean, we all pay taxes. We understand that. Taxes come out in our, out of our paychecks, respectively. That from jobs that we work. But it seems like we're so accustomed to that money being withdrawn, and then somebody just tells us that that money's going towards this or it's going towards that. But it almost seems like there should be almost like an account, from money just generated through the government, our society has been around for a long time. Have we not accumulated funds that should be sitting, that could be put towards schools and things of that nature? And I think that's, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
To an extent. So I don't, if the government had extra money, I would say they should just pay back people whatever they paid in. When we talk about Social Security, my plan for Social Security is real simple. Whatever you paid in, you get that back, and then we shut down the program. You paid in $5, you get back $5. You paid in $50,000, you get back $50,000. Whatever you paid in, that's owed to you, but not a cent more. If you just came here when you're 79 years old and now you start expecting to collect Social Security, that's nonsense. That's not how it's supposed to work. When it comes to things like education, what are we talking about here? We're talking about empowerment.
That's what I'm asking.
We're talking about empowerment. We're saying, I talk to so many people. People say, poor people don't care about their kids. That's not true. I talk to so many poor people. They do care about their kids. They feel disempowered because the school board's not going to listen to them.
Right.
So what I want to see is no government involvement at all. No public schools, no government-funded educations, no vouchers, no charter schools, nothing other than you pay for what you want. And here's the thing. Look at how poorly somebody's treated by the state versus how well they're treated even by a low-end fast food restaurant. When people have to cater to you, even for a small amount of money, they start catering to you. They start asking, what do you want? And by ending government schools, by ending the welfare state in that way, by ending any kind of government-funded education, you're empowering people to say, if you want my money, it might be a little bit of money, but it's my money. This is my $5. This is my $2. This is my $50, whatever. If you want it, you need to give me what I want. I am not going to tolerate something second rate ever again.
I'm amazed right now because I'm going to have to, shuffle my questions around here. Only because this reason, you just basically stated, and I don't think I mentioned to everybody yet, is that you are running for U.S. Senate as a Libertarian.
I am.
So what that means, and what reminded me of that, is the fact that you said, government involvement, less government involvement, whereas, conservatism, is supposed to be by the people, okay, where, liberalism, seems more like, whether they would admit it or not, seems to be a little bit more government involvement, but yet you're saying, as a libertarian, you're riding right in between those lines, to a degree where you don't
to some
want
extent, because
any government. You don't need any more government involvement, but yet government can help.
I would not say that.
Okay.
I would say government, and see, that's the key thing. If you look at between Democrats and Republicans right now for something like government schools, Democrats support government schools and Republicans also support government schools. So between that would also support government schools. Libertarians are kind of a completely different perspective.
Okay.
We are the only party, major or minor, of any kind that believes in abolishing all government schools. All government-funded education.
Okay.
That's where we're coming from because we say this. We say that if you don't have that, now you have the free market instead. That means a parent with a kid can say, we can use free things like Khan Academy, Coursera, MIT OpenCourseWare. Or that parent can say, I like this, this neighborhood business down the street. And maybe I don't have a lot of money, but if they want that small amount of money, they have to give me what I want. And the difference is now you have people taking responsibility. You have people feeling empowered because they can choose to pay or not pay because it's their money. No one's taking their money anymore.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Have you heard of St. Jude Hospital?
Yeah.
Okay, is that similar to what they do? You wonder how they fund everything. I mean, to be able to offer a child rehabilitation for whatever cancer or whatever illness they might be suffering from, where do they get their funding? Is this what you're talking about?
So that's a perfect example.
That's why I asked that.
Now, St. Jude's,
I'm curious.
so St. Jude's, it's a place that it's funded by so many donations.
Okay.
And there's a big difference between tax and donations, though, because donations, those are voluntary. Those are not involuntary. And St. Jude's has to earn those donations. You know why? Because anybody can say, I'm not going to donate.
Right.
They have to earn it by being good. Now, can you imagine anyone in their right mind donating to the mess that we have of government schools right now?
You wouldn't
No
want
one
to.
would, because
You
you're
wouldn't
like,
want
that's a
to.
train wreck. I'll donate to anybody but that.
Yeah.
And the idea that the free market, the power of the free market is that even donations have to be earned.
Yes.
Charity has to be earned, but through effectiveness.
Sure.
And that's one of the really powerful ideas that I really see catching on in this movement right now.
And you know what? I tell you what. It's one of those things where my eyes just opened up, and I'm like, wow, why does this sound so simple, but yet it's so far, away from the general way of thinking. We're so accustomed to this side, that side, that we don't see anything on the outskirts or in between. It's either you're a Democrat or you're a Republican.
Yeah.
And you either choose one of those two sides.
And the problem is right now those two sides have become increasingly identical. You have a warmongering left and you have a warmongering right. One of the big principles that libertarians have, that I certainly have, that I plan to sponsor legislation for, is to stop being involved in the civil wars of other countries. I say bring the troops home. I say shut down all these foreign military bases. I say cut taxes accordingly. I say that we should have whatever military personnel that we need for defense and not a single person more. The military is not supposed to be a large-scale welfare jobs program. It's supposed to serve a purpose, and it should do that at the lowest cost with the fewest people possible. That's efficiency. And that's what I want to see. I don't want us involved in other countries' wars anymore. I don't think that we have any business doing that. I think it's a bad idea. It's expensive. It creates enemies. So one of the main things that I want to do is to sponsor legislation to cease all involvement in foreign wars. Bring the troops home, shut down foreign military bases, and cut taxes accordingly.
Let me ask you this. As being somebody who personally lived in Europe during a portion of the 80s, I remember, father being a military guy and all that, and I'm Army brat myself. There was a time where the word came throughout, all the U.S. bases and all that, they were getting ready to start shutting them down. Is this something similar to? Obviously, I'm pretty sure it wasn't a libertarian that stood up and said, "Hey, look, like you're saying now, let's get our guys home." What is that? Pretty much what you're saying? Something took effect during the '80s and moved all those bases out of Europe and across the other, other places in the world.
Yeah.
So is that something similar, or you still think we still have too many bases located?
I think we have far too many. We're talking about hundreds of bases. We are prepared for an essentially permanent war. We are not just preparing for that permanent war, but we're engaged in that permanent war. We are at war all the time. Nobody can tell anymore.
When we're out of a war situation.
Nobody can tell anymore.
Yeah.
Congress hasn't bothered to declare a war anymore. We've only had these just endless, unconstitutional missions.
Excellent.
These are corrupted missions. They are non-strategic. They have no goal of any kind. They often achieve the goal. For example, one of the goals supposedly was to kill Osama bin Laden. It was achieved. But we're still over there. Why? It is because we are essentially creating a permanent warfare state that benefits military contractors and other people who are making money directly from the war.
Because it funds everything. It's just kind of like the pharmaceutical industries that you keep buying. You still have the product. People keep buying it, so you keep selling it.
Yeah, and they're trying to turn war into a chronic condition. War is not supposed to be a long-term, lifelong chronic condition.
I understand.
Sometimes I get that sometimes a thing needs to be cured. I disagreed with having a full war to kill one person. I thought it was an insane approach. I would have supported any other thing that made any sense, including just putting a bounty on his head. But even though that war was insane, it's mission accomplished. I mean, let's admit a success. Bring everyone home. Let's stop being involved in these foreign countries. And here's the thing. When we're involved in that many countries, we are generating ill will.
Sure.
We are paying a lot of money to make ourselves less safe. So I want to bring all the troops home. I want to shut down all of those foreign military bases. Militarily, even if you say we want to be ready for war wherever, which I don't think is necessary, you don't need bases for that. We already have aircraft carriers.
Yeah.
But
we can do it from home.
Exactly. And we don't. So I think it's a bad idea. But even if you think it's a good idea, we don't need those bases. I want to shut all of them down. I want to cut taxes accordingly. I want to bring the troops home. I don't want to send a single young man or young woman on a mission that is corrupted, that has no strategic purpose. If somebody's going to war, I want that to be for a really good reason, not just to serve some corporate interest.
Understood. I could stay on that particular topic with you for a long time, but I will move on.
Okay.
Now, libertarians do not win elections. Bottom line. I mean,
federally, yeah.
Federal
elections, we've had a very hard time with.
I don't know, or I can't recall any true libertarian that has won a major seat. So, I mean, why run as a libertarian? And realistically, what do you think your chances of winning are?
So let's talk about what the strategic value is, because I also serve on the Libertarian National Committee. So what is the strategic value of this? The number one thing that happens when we run for major offices is that we are essentially recruiting people, and we are letting the status quo know that we are not tolerating their stuff anymore. Mm-hmm. See, here's the thing. If you vote for Democrat or Republican, if you can vote, I mean, you can, many people do. You vote for Democrat or Republican, sure. You're telling them, keep on doing what you're doing. Right. When you vote for a Libertarian, you are telling them in no uncertain terms, you're basically saying to the Democrats and Republicans, you have neither my approval nor my permission to keep growing or maintaining big government. Shrink it now. That's what you're telling them. And so strategically, libertarians don't have to get 51% of the vote. If we get 1% of the vote, that changes a lot of things. If we get 2%, that changes more things. If we beat the spread between the Democrats and Republicans, that increases the significance. And that's how we strategically shift politics.
You can still affect.
Exactly.
You can still affect elections.
Exactly.
Just by being there, adding input, and being that middle ground.
Exactly.
I understand. So there's no backing out. If you back out, then like you said, it's just you're right back to the regular ones and twos. But you have to be in there to show that there's a different perspective, and what we're used to isn't working. It's proven that it's becoming ineffective.
And let's look at their last presidential election, right? You had Gary Johnson, who got a record number of votes, 4 times as many as the previous record, which was just set a few years ago, right? The cycle right before that. That is a trend that is happening. We are seeing that kind of growth in numbers, in ideas. People. I've talked to so many people, and just as socially, just as friends,
sure,
and been so surprised when I found out that they, these people who don't in any way seem like what I would associate with a libertarian, voting libertarian, because they're saying I was going to vote my conscience. I am not going to vote for somebody that I would not stand next to on stage. I'm not going to vote for somebody whose values I don't respect. It doesn't matter if I'm the only person doing the right thing, I'm going to do the right thing. And that to me is a powerful testament to democracy, to individual conscience, and to individual freedom.
Let me ask you this real quick, and you can be brief with it, you can take your time with it. The election of Donald Trump. Is that a sign? Is that a positive sign, I should say, towards the uprise of the libertarian movement because of such a kind of majority victory for him over somebody who was a sound politician at the time?
Yeah. To me, a lot of people, when they were voting for Trump, did the wrong thing for the right reason. They wanted somebody who was going to smash up the status quo. They wanted somebody who was going to pull us out of NATO. That's a major thing. I believe the U.S. needs to be out of NATO. It is just welfare for Europe. It is just paying for their defense so they can waste more of their citizens' money on their welfare programs. I say leave NATO, let Europe pay for its own defense. These are ideas that Trump put forth. I have some experience in politics. I knew he was lying. I told everyone he was lying. I was like, he's lying. And he was lying.
He was lying.
But the thing is, that's what people were voting for. People were voting to leave NATO. People were voting to dismantle the status quo. People were voting to bring the troops home. That's what he said he was going to do. He didn't do it because he was lying, but that shows that's what people wanted. Now they've tried it. They've tried it with somebody who, was lying about it. Now I'm hoping that they'll keep on wanting the right thing and then vote for the people who are going to actually do it instead of lie about it.
And it's obvious. It's obvious, and that's the crazy thing about politics. And this is this is what baffles me about how people can, as part of the game, almost like, our judicial system where you have, the defense, and then you have, basically somebody who is the one that's going to, the prosecutor who's the one that's trying to, put all your bads out there. Everybody collectively knows just about everything. Mm-hmm. And yet some of it you have to keep hidden. Some of it you reveal. Mm-hmm. And there's client privilege or whatever it's called. Personal confidential stuff.
Yeah.
It seems to be the same way with politics. They say stuff, and they're blatantly lying.
Yeah. And
certain people like yourself who are experienced in the political atmosphere knows that.
Yeah.
But yet you look at it, and while you were listening to that individual say it, you're like, wow, way to go, good platform. Because you have to. You almost have to understand what's happening, because that's just part of the way it's done.
Yeah.
It's the way it's done. Would you agree with that?
Here's the thing. This is something that I learned the hard way, right? In 2008, I voted for Obama. I'd always voted Libertarian.
So did I.
But I saw someone that was willing to be honest and open. I thought maybe this is a guy who's going to scale back or end the war on drugs. Mm-hmm. I thought he was going to do things differently. I didn't realize he was lying. Then I found out he was lying, and then I saw all the things. When I get lied to, when I get tricked, I go through it. Mm-hmm. So I went through his videos to see what could I have seen, and in retrospect, it was obvious. Hindsight is always 20/20.
20/20.
So in 2016. There was a lot of things that Trump was saying that I thought were exciting. Leaving NATO, I think, is an excellent idea. But I knew he was lying this time. Fool me once, shame on you, but I'm not going to get fooled that second time, right?
Sir.
And so I think that's an area that people need to get to say, listen, these status quo parties are only going to give us pro-welfare state, pro-warfare state, pro-income tax politicians. If you want something that's going to fearlessly dismantle government, end the income tax, get government out of schools, get government out of charity, get government out of everything, that's only going to be libertarians. That's going to be the Libertarian Party. No one else is going to do it.
Well, let me ask you this, Arvin. Mm-hmm. If elected as a libertarian, what is the first piece of very first piece of legislation that you would be focused on changing, in favor of the people?
Ending the income tax. Completely ending it. And having government downsized accordingly. Here's the thing. Today, we could cut spending just to 1992 levels. Cut government spending to 1992 levels and abolish the income tax. We don't have to go back to 1776. I would prefer to bring it to 1776 levels. Yeah. We could just go to 1992. By the way, we still had roads back then. Yeah. We could go just to that level and end the income tax. So my first order of business is to slash the welfare state, get rid of these unnecessary departments, get rid of things like the FDA, get rid of things like the Department of Agriculture, get rid of all these departments, fire all the people working there, and end the income tax. That is my number one goal.
It sounds fabulous. I wish you the best on your venture. You seem like you're definitely determined to make these changes, and one way or another, something positive is going to come out of it. Thanks for watching this episode of Maryland Politics, everybody. I've had the gracious presence of Mr. Arvin Vohra, who is running for the United States Senate as a Libertarian. Thank you for being my guest this evening here at TV Free Studios in Baltimore. Appreciate that.
Thanks for having me on. And if you want to learn more about my campaign, please go to votevohra.com. That's the word vote, followed by a VOHRA.com.
You're watching Maryland Politics here on TV Free Baltimore.